And hello and good morning. Still the echo. Have to know, have to test. I'm David Bowles, and this is Bowles TV. BOLES.TV, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Well, been an interesting last 10 minutes. There is some weird smell going on in this apartment that's coming from another apartment. And it's not our usually hotboxing that happens at 9 a.m. It is some kind of other smell. And if I had to guess, I'd think it was a cigarette smell. But it has put me into a sneezing fit. And a blowing the nose fit. And a coughing fit. Where I've been trying to present myself for the last 5 minutes, but I can't stop blowing my nose. I don't know what's going on. But it's an awful smell. So I've been Lysoling the whole apartment, hoping to get rid of the smell, but now I've poisoned myself with Lysol. In other interesting news, I've learned to restart my computer every day right before the stream starts, because it seems to like it better that way. So I restarted, and then all the necessary programs, anything else that I use during the rest of the day that has nothing to do with the stream, I don't turn on. It doesn't look like Discord is working. So, yes, I guess it is on. That's weird. Weird day. Hey, so I start our Streamlabs. And everything looks good, and then it freezes. Oh, no. Our beginning animation looks like this, and that plays, and when this is playing, and you can see movement, I know everything's okay. So it starts playing, and movement is everything, and then I look away and look back, and it's frozen. I thought, oh, no, when it's frozen, that's very bad, because I'm not even live yet. I've just started the software. So I start closing things because I think I have to go to Streamlabs, download a new version of the software, because I kept trying to start it and nothing would happen. And nothing would happen, and nothing would happen. So I thought, well, I'll download it and then restart. So I download it. I do the install. It says, Streamlabs is already running. You're already broadcasting. Do you want us to keep going? Or do you want us to stop your broadcast? And I thought, I never even hit the broadcast key. So I said, stop everything. It said, okay, it installed. And then it said, do you want us to start up Streamlabs? And it's getting very close to the time where I have to start the stream. I said, okay. So it started the stream. It looked like everything was fine. My bot did not appear to be working. And it's still not working. It says Streamlabs is a Bowles bot. It has that stupid question mark. Something is up. The software was up and running. It looked okay. It wasn't freezing. So I said, do I really want to close everything that I have open and restart and then reopen everything? Because that takes about 10 minutes. I said, no, I don't. To be rebellious. And I'm just going to click the go live button and see what happens. Now, did my stream title update today? Or is it the same one from yesterday? Hey, it did work. Fascinating. I have no idea what's going on. I don't understand any of this. I think I know, but then in the end, I don't know because it just has a life of its own. So I sit here sneezing and spraying Lysol, trying to disinfect my life. And in the back of my mind, I'm hoping and praying that in some ways, I will be forgiven if this live stream crashes, which it could. It could just stop working. But everything I see says it's okay. So I don't know why Streamlabs decides to crash every once in a while. I don't know if it's a new version, because usually when you start up Streamlabs and there's a new version, it says, hey, there's a new version. And usually when you install the new version, it removes all of your audio. This time it did not remove my audio, as far as I can tell. The music is playing and I am being heard across America, across the world. So you just never know. You think you're all ready, put on a pretty shirt, get the lights ready, and then you click a button and nothing happens. So it was hot here yesterday, 95 degrees. Going to be 95 again today. The whole United States is baking. And nobody seems to really care. UK was baking yesterday. Highs of 104 degrees. Never been above 100 in the UK before yesterday. 40 degrees Celsius is what they call it. And this could very easily be fixed with a few changes of how we use our natural resources. And people don't want to do it. And they tend to mainly be conservative. And in America, Republicans. Because it's very simple. They are owned by big energy, gasoline, coal, Joe Manchin. So they're not going to go against the best interests of their families and do the right thing for the rest of the world. It's really disgusting. So we sit here, we suffer, we bake slowly. And when will people decide they've had enough and that they want this fixed? And now there's some kind of strange fly thing that's flying around here. Loves the color of my new screen since I've gone from the dark theme to light theme. The light theme seems to bring out the bugs. I guess that's the technical term. So we haven't heard from our friend Dora for a long time. She used to be here every single day. And she would say hello and chat and talk once in a while. And then she's very busy at work because she's trying to retire, but her employer does not want her to retire. So they keep offering her bigger and bigger incentives to stay. I think spraying this Lysol would get rid of whatever this fly thing is trying to attract. But every once in a while I get a little update from Dora, and she always threatens to come by and say hello. And she hasn't lately, and I understand why, because she's trying to get her life ready for retirement. She thinks it's going to be maybe August. I believe probably it's going to be January or later. I think the economy's bad. I think a lot of people who want to retire have lost a lot of money in their savings accounts and plans. So they have to just keep going and keep their head down. And she's being smart about it. She's a financial person, so she knows what she's doing. And her son and daughter-in-law are very quick-witted as well, so they know that she has to do the right thing. Now I have to test my Streamlabs thing and see if it's coming back. Nope, still Streamlabs. So every once in a while, I get a little hum-hum, a little hello from our friend Dora on the Twitter. And this is from way back in June. This is, why she told me she wasn't really able to be available too much because she was working on her very first for-pay artistic work. And it was a long, hard struggle, months and months, where she should have been watching our show. She was painting instead. And this was the result. Big success. She's blacked out some identifying marks on the patch here and on the trophy. But it's done, it's over. She got her money, and she ran to the hills. So congratulations to her on her first big sale. Dora is not a supporter of crypto, and she is not a supporter of NFTs. And most of that has to do with her job, where she's not allowed to be in that area, I guess. And also, even though Dora is an artist, her son has forbidden her from getting involved with NFTs. Which, okay, I don't agree. But who am I? I'm a nobody. So this I got from Dora. I read it this morning, and I think it's just fabulous. Fabulously hilarious. And this is Dora. This is why we love Dora. She is a New Yorker. From Italy, but lives here. And so this is what she sent me. It looks like a bowl of celery with tuna. So I'm thinking, why is she sending me this? And then I decided to read what she wrote. Hey, I get a kick out of this. This is my newest concoction that you and the sweetheart Jana Marie and all vegetarians, vegans around the world would love. I agree it's not the prettiest presentation. I didn't say it wasn't pretty. I said it looks like tuna. But I was standing in 100+ heat yesterday as I prepared it, and I had to be fast before passing out from the heat. I'm not laughing at her, I'm laughing with her, because I can imagine her preparing this in her kitchen, dying of the heat. Thank goodness my basement is 40 degrees cooler. And it's absolutely true. It's the wildest thing. In New York and New Jersey, if you want to get out of the heat and you're lucky enough to have a basement, wow, it's a big difference. My grandfather back in Nebraska, when it would get hot, he had one air conditioning for the entire house. It was a window air conditioner, a huge window air conditioner. But when it was just too hot, he would go into the unfinished storm cellar and sleep. And he had a bed there. Hey, it's Mr. Gordon. Good schmorgans. Since it's not tuna, what is it? Well, I guess you're just going to have to wait and find out. Because I'm teasing the story very slowly. And I'm going off the rails a little bit. I'm trying to watch what I eat as I need to take a blood test in the next couple of days. Just a 3-year overdue test before my doctor threatens to withhold my medication. Now, I'm going off the rails again because I love that. I do the same thing. Oh, I'm going to the heart doctor. No alcohol, no saturated fat, no sugar, no dessert. I'm fasting. I'm going to behave for a week and a half. And I'm like Dora. I have to have a blood test? I don't want a blood test. It's going to reveal all my secrets, all my bad behavior. So for 3 days, I'm going to eat nothing except healthy things and things that won't affect my A1C and my meow meow and meh. And you think you can clean your blood, right? And you can. But you can't do it in 3 days or a week. It takes a month, 6 weeks for your body to react to your better behavior. And this also reminded me, during the pandemic, my heart doctor, and I've been seeing him for many, many years, sort of didn't really want to see people. He was old. He had an older wife and daughter and kids, so he didn't really want to see people in person. He sort of disappeared for about 3 months where you couldn't find him. And finally, when the pandemic was over, it turns out he sold his business. His business was on the first floor of a brownstone, 3 levels. There was a fire in one of the apartments that destroyed really the whole building. So during this pandemic, he had his whole building rebuilt. He had the medical office completely redesigned from the bottom up, and then he sold the whole thing. And he's there, still practicing, but not really. But his name is there, so his old patients won't run away and go to a different doctor. Okay, I get all that. So I couldn't find him, and I was running out of medication. And I couldn't get anybody to respond to me. So I said, well, we're in a pandemic. I'll try this telemedicine thing. And a secret power that I do have is, for some reason I don't understand, speaking very humbly but very truthfully to you right now, is women from Eastern Europe, Czechoslovakia, Ukraine, Poland, Russia, they love me. Sight unseen, until they see me, they love me. They don't even speak to me, and they're already in love with me. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I accept the adoration. And this has been true of colleagues, people I meet on the street, hospitals, doctors, some students. Got to be very careful. Everything is professional. There's no weird encouraging going on. And I don't encourage anything because I've been married now for 34 years. But I will take the favorable attraction. I don't know if it's white privilege or Eastern European fascination privilege, but I'll take it, because why would you turn down any sort of privilege? So usually when these people are in a position where I need to get help and I ask for help, I very readily get help. And I'm very appreciative of that. So I'm searching on the telemedicine for a doctor, and you can, on some of these services, read their background, where they're from, where they're originally from, where their current medical license is from. And I confess, I was looking for an Eastern European female doctor around my age to be my doctor for my telemedicine conference, because I wanted to get a nice supply of my medication. And some of these doctors are very, if you've ever done telemedicine, some of them are nice. Most of them are very kind of sketchy, grumpy. They don't really want to write you a prescription, but I guess they have to. So you have to try to find someone who you think will be amenable to you and help you and get you in and out really fast. And they have pictures and background. So I picked, this is like, I guess, how Match.com works, but I've never, or Tinder or whatever that's called, but I don't ever use, because I've been married for 34 years. So I see this doctor, and she's female, around my age, a little bit older, blonde hair, blue-eyed, from Poland. School. My Eastern European attraction privilege is coming into play. So I click on her, and she pops up, and she has a very thick Polish accent, and I can see immediately, just by the sparkle in her eye, that she is thrilled and delighted to make my acquaintance. Score. I've done it again. And we start talking about my medication, and I explain about my doctor, and she said, "When was the last time you did blood?" Which is what our friend Dora's doctor is asking her. I said, I think it was, 8 months ago, 8 months ago. And then she went into this big dramatic fit. "Oh my gosh, you're on heart medication. This is very serious. I'm not writing you a prescription until you get a blood test first." I said, "Well, I'm going to run out of medication in about a week. Right now, you can't get into LabCorp because of the pandemic. They're closed. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and I'm really not going out anywhere. I just need to get my medication refilled, and when the pandemic is over, then I will go and get a blood test." That was unacceptable to her, and for the next 10 minutes, I got harangued by what I thought was my Eastern Bloc attention of love. As she said, I have to have blood tests every 3 months. I think I am. What kind of doctor do I have? She'll write me a prescription for 7 days of medication. I said, this call is costing me $25. I would like to get 90 days. No, we can't prescribe 90 days on telemedicine. Only a maximum of 30. And I'm not writing you one for 30. You have to go get a blood test right now. I said, I don't know how or where you are, but where I am, there are no blood test centers that are open. Go to the hospital and get a blood test. So I don't think my insurance covers blood tests in hospitals unless I'm an admitted patient. Pay for it out of your own pocket. I was very shocked by this whole turn of events and very upset. But I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere with her because I could see she had turned against me now, that I was now an idiot. The sparkle in her eye had disappeared. I was now the dog on the street, the estranged husband, the disappointing child who never turned out to be anything. And in her mind, I could see she had dismissed me. So I said, well, this isn't going well. I think I'm going to go now. And if you can't give me a 90-day prescription, then I can't continue this conversation. And I said, thank you, and left. Foiled again. And then in about 10 minutes, I got a transcription of our conversation and what she decided. And she said, patient said, this is no good, needs 90 days, wants to prescribe 90 days, so case closed. And I don't believe I got charged because we didn't do anything. All she did was yell at me. And so after about 3 or 4 days after that, I said, now what am I going to do? I'm not going to go to a different telemedicine. If the rule that they won't do more than 90 days, I need 90 days because we're in a pandemic. I don't need 30 days because then they want you to go back and get another 30 days and keep paying $25. So finally I found my heart doctor who said, well, you have to come in and see me. So I went over there. He called me as I was standing in the freezing street, interviewing me about my exposure, decided I could come in. I was in there for 60 seconds. He looked at me, took my blood pressure, weighed me, and said, okay, go. So it worked out, but it didn't work out because it was a big mess. And my Eastern European attractiveness privilege was dealt its very first severe. My ego. So I know how my friend Dora feels. And I didn't have a blood test for another year after that. That was 2 or 3 years ago. So to my doctor, it wasn't a big deal. To the telemedicine doctor, who maybe was very fond of me and wanted me to stay healthy and clean and survive and have a blood test every 3 months under her care so she could see me on a more regular basis. I don't know. And now it's time to take a very brief blood pressure break. Yes, this is what we do in television. We're going to keep Gordon hanging. Is it tuna or is it something else? Yeah. We'll find out in a moment. And we're back from break. This is Bowles.tv, BOLES TV, television. David Bowles, and we are here with you Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, if all goes well. Gordon says, we'll be back after a brief word from our sponsors. Not that all of you are seeing those words since you are subscribed. Very true. You just get to enjoy the lovely scenery we have set for you here. Now, this Eastern European instant attraction is something you have to be very aware of because it is a secret superpower. And especially with people you work with or students, with me, they tend to attach very quickly, and I have to be very careful. Don't be overly friendly, like I'm taught to be from Nebraska. Don't smile too much. Don't be too accommodating or too funny, because it gets amplified. You're super funny. You're super attractive. You're super fun to be with. All true, but sometimes not recommended. Not that you have to be mean to somebody, but you just have to be aware of the superpower that you sometimes have that may not be understood by other people around you. So back to our mystery story and a report from Dora from her kitchen. Or maybe it's from her basement. So she is trying to fake out her doctor and her blood test, as I am wont to do as well. I completely understand it. She's trying to eat healthy in a bowl of celery. I laugh because I find myself in the same situation. Before my doctor threatens to withhold medication from me, of course, I am finding it difficult finding things to eat. She may not have the healthiest things in her pantry, but I remembered that I had fresh celery in the fridge. Unfortunately, I had no hummus. When I suddenly remembered that I had bought a can of... Did I tell you the story of this telemedicine doctor who happened to be from Eastern Europe, and I thought I could convince her with my charm and good looks to write me a longer prescription than 30 days? Oh, yeah, I did. When suddenly I remembered I had bought a can of black-eyed peas. The mystery has been solved. So I said to myself, why don't I make my own hummus? And that's exactly what I did. Drum roll, please. Thank you. So I said to myself, why don't I make my own hummus? And that's exactly what I did. I, Dora the artist, opened the can, rinsed it, mashed the beans with a fork. I then added lemon and decided to garnish the plate with celery stalks so I could scoop my concoction. It worked beautifully and tasted great. Next time I'll try to add some other vegetables, maybe some tomato, red onion. I, of course, took a picture and sent it to my son, who was so intrigued that he called to ask, "What are you eating?" I told myself we should investigate packaging and selling it. But of course, he won't listen to me. Gordon says, I once made hummus with chickpeas like that in a parking lot. Oh my, that sounds like a very interesting story. I hope it was during the daytime hours, but you never know. I'm not sure I'll be able to listen to you. Meow, meow. I know, it's always a disappointment. And then she says I should make an NFT of this. I see a Triceratops' face. And this is the close-up of her black bean hummus. Now, here's why I really thought this was tuna from day one. And I'm thinking, Dora knows that we are vegan. It wouldn't be like her to rub my nose in a bowl of tuna. And I was right, because she didn't. This is, believe it or not, black bean. Now, I showed this and shared this with Jana Marie this morning. And I said, I had no idea that black beans were pink inside. And she said, oh, everybody knows that. I have a hard time with beans. Sometimes beans, I love beans, but sometimes if things are too beany, too potato-y, it gets a little hard for me to eat it. But this looks rather delicious. I just had no idea that black beans were actually pink. So I find that very charming, and I love the story, and I'm so glad she sent me it. I wrote back and I said, I'm talking about this tomorrow, so if you're there, you're there. If you're not, you're going to miss out. And it appears that she has missed out. But that's okay. She'll be back. She keeps threatening it one of these days. So yesterday we had a very brief discussion, maybe a longer discussion, about Magnus Carlsen and not his retirement from chess, but his not wanting to defend his title as world chess champion of the world. And Gordon says, but she can always watch the rebroadcast on YouTube. Absolutely true. And I think sometimes she does. She doesn't ever tell me, but I think she does. I hope she does. Now that I told her I was talking about her today, I'm sure she will. And then we got into a brief conversation about being on the autism spectrum and Asperger's and Magnus Carlsen. And yesterday afternoon and evening, Magnus, just Magnus, was trending on Twitter. So I clicked on it to see what people were saying about Magnus, and about the third or fourth tweet was this guy right here. My Human Me podcast about Magnus being on the spectrum or not. I think that's the first time I've ever been in trending. And I'm delighted that it was there. I'm delighted that it made the grade, so to say. And it came from my Bowles Blogs account, not my main account. But that's okay. And then you go into the Reddit chess group, and they're all talking about Magnus quitting. And this Reddit group tends to not like Hikaru Nakamura very much. And Hikaru talked about Magnus on his stream yesterday. Hasn't really talked about it on Twitter very much. Gordon says, I tried getting Chaim to watch an analysis of Magnus losing against Judith Polgar on a casual rest day in Spain. I saw it. It was delightful. Kind of a match on YouTube, and he lost interest halfway through. I think it may have been too much information at this point. Very interesting. So Hikaru on his show yesterday, which started right after I finished my show, was very interesting because we all know Hikaru has a massive ego, and has a lot of money, and he's a big streamer, makes $700,000 a year just from streaming, no sponsorship deals included. And Hikaru said, well, if I had come in second place, Magnus would have played. He would not have retired because he didn't want to give me, Hikaru, the opportunity to beat Jan for the World Championship. He would have played Jan and defeated him and kept me out of it because that's the kind of person that Magnus is. Now, that's weird that you think you're so important, Hikaru, that the world chess champion, Magnus, is going to change his mind after a year where he's told everyone, I'm not playing, change his mind and come back just to spite you. And Hikaru keeps saying, oh no, I'm not depressed at all. Hey, Gordon says, I should have read the comments on that video. Look at this. Before you start this video analysis of the game, you should advise that this is a video for those who are very good in chess, because the explanation of moves are quick and often. I'm not a very good player, but I love the game because the narrator explains quick back and forth. I didn't learn anything. If I had known prior to watching, I would have had an idea what to expect. Yes, if you are learning chess, especially on YouTube, you have to go to Gotham Chess. Levy Rothman. People who don't pay attention call him Levi. His name is not Levi. His name is Levy, Levy. On the live stream, he's vicious and foul-mouthed to his chatters, which really disappointed me, because on YouTube, he is charming and silly and fun and a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful teacher. He's the head of the main sponsor of the kids chess on chess.com. And he also has, I believe at GothamChess.com, he sells training videos. But he makes millions and millions of dollars a year from his YouTube videos alone. So he's doing something right. He posted a video 8 days ago saying he's retiring from chess. Is that Levy who's retiring from chess? Because I've heard that he was retiring and then he wasn't retiring. Last thing I heard from, and I don't watch him often because once I started watching his live stream and seeing how foul-mouthed he was, I thought I don't want to watch his videos anymore. But maybe he is retiring. Now I'm kind of, someone was making a joke, I think in this Reddit stream, that Magnus was copying Levy. So maybe he is retiring. I mean, the guy's been making videos, 2 or 3 videos, like a day for 3 years. So there's probably not a lot to talk about, but that's his main revenue stream. And what I heard is he was setting up his own version of Chessable, where he was going to be like a chess trainer and he was looking for programmers. But that was 8 months ago. So maybe he is retiring. Now I have to look it up. Okay. Yeah, I know. I think I know what's going on here. Let me see. Let's see. What does he say? Retiring. I think he just got married. He wants to have kids. Okay. I know what's going on. Now, you have to remember everything with Levy is all for YouTube views because he makes, like Howard says, at least $1.5 million. Levy does on his YouTube videos every year. See, here's this. He has a potty mouth. That's not what I'm looking for. It didn't go well. Oh my goodness, what's going on here? Gotham Chess. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, here we go. This is the one. I am retiring from all competitive chess events. My preparation not matched. My calculation skills are too flawed. And most importantly, my anxiety is beyond repair. He was going to a sports psychologist, and I guess it didn't work out. I physically and emotionally cannot do it anymore. I will stick to what I do best, bring chess to you all. Okay, so that is what he's doing. So this is what Levy was figuring out. One of his best friends is Eric Rosen, who is a fabulous, fabulous chess streamer on Twitch. And he plays mainly on Lichess, where it's free. The Levy is chess.com. They grew up together, studied together in New York, played against each other. They're best friends. They're both IMs. International Masters, not GMs. And Eric has gone with the whole branding. I am Rosen. I am for International Master Rosen. Genius, really, branding. And he's an excellent player. He explains things so well. He is super, super calm. I love how he teaches chess. Levy is a hyper-kinetic New Yorker, which is good too. But if I had to choose which one do I want teaching me chess, I will take Eric Rosen. So Levy decided to increase his branding. This is all about branding, by the way. He was going to go for GM, Grandmaster, like Hikaru and all the others, because he thought it was necessary to continue his brand and his teaching and his learning. And a lot of people around him said this is just a big scam to get people to watch his YouTube videos. He's too old, and he's not that old. I think he's like, I want to say 26, I don't know. But they say at 26, if you're not GM, you're never going to get it. And everybody around him said, if you just look at, Ben Feingold said this beautifully, Levy will never be a GM because he's too old and there isn't enough time and he's in a bad location. He would need to move to Portugal or somewhere not that's America, where he could play regularly against high-rated GMs, because that's how you get your GM norm, is by playing other GMs. And he isn't talented enough. And Hikaru and Levy used to be best friends. When Hikaru started streaming, Levy was on his stream almost every day. And when Hikaru couldn't be there, Levy would take over. And then they, I guess, had a falling out where Levy wanted to do his own stream or get paid more money, and Hikaru didn't want to give it to him. So they had a messy streamer divorce. So Hikaru has always been a little bit mean to Levy after that, unnecessarily mean. And Levy doesn't really talk about Hikaru very much. He, thanks him for the opportunity to get him streaming, and he has a YouTube career now because of Hikaru. And Hikaru said, look, I respect Levy. We work together a lot, but he will never, ever be a GM. He said for him to do this right, he would have to take a year off, just play over-the-board chess, and study. And Hikaru said, I know Levy. He's not going to do that. He has enormous income from his YouTube videos. That is what he does. He used to live stream every day, and then he stopped that because he makes a lot more money on these YouTube videos. And he's terrific. He's a natural. So Levy's not going to give up that money. And he's going to try to have it both ways, where he's going to, go on tour and play in these tournaments, wink, wink, and pretend that he's becoming a GM, wink, wink. But he's not going to be able to get enough points, 2,700, to get above that level of stature playing against other GMs, because he's not a GM, he's an IM. And I guess that's a big crevasse, as they say. And GMs look down on IMs. That's just the way it is. And then there are super GMs who are over like 2,800 who look down on regular GMs. It's very interesting. So everybody who knew Levy felt that it was sort of a little bit of a YouTube scam to get viewers, because there was no way that he had an opportunity to be a GM. And people would go to Eric Rosen and say, well, what do you think? What do you think what Levy's doing? Are you going to do it? And he said, well, Levy can do what he wants to do, but I'm perfectly happy being an IM doing what I do. And Eric has YouTube videos, and has streams often. I believe he's in St. Louis, I believe. And now finally, I think that Levy has burned himself out or been called out, because when he was playing in these tournaments, he was really, really doing awful. And about a month or two, he was playing in one tournament and got almost immediately checkmated by an 11-year-old. And the video of that recap was, I quit. And what he meant is, I quit that game, not that he quit his quest to be a GM. But this announcement saying, I'm retiring from over-the-board chess, OTB, and I'm going to concentrate on what I do best, which is, streaming and making YouTube videos. For him, is just a return to normal. And Hikaru kind of feels the same way. He said, I don't like sitting there playing 4 hours across the board in a foreign land where I have to stay there for a week. And if you make one tiny mistake, wasted 4 hours. He prefers the fast 3-minute games he plays every day on chess.com. He says, I'm a streamer first. And I guess Levy now has come to that conclusion. So it's slightly embarrassing for Levy that he now has to admit that everyone around him was right. And the teardown that Ben Feingold did of Levy was just astronomically painful, because Ben said it was all math and it was all calendar. And he said something like it would take Levy 3 to 5 years of doing nothing but studying to get to the GM level. He said there's no way he's going to do it. He will not give up his YouTube income. And Ben said that's the new paradigm today in chess, is if you aren't at like grandmaster level by the age of 13 or 14, you are never going to get there, because the clock and time and coincidence is against you, which I thought was very interesting. And Ben, I believe, is now a GM, but for many, 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 many years, 15 years, something like that, he was that close to becoming a GM. And he just couldn't get over the hump. He wasn't really that important to him. And he would just kind of keep losing and lose a point here and lose a point there. And finally, his friends kind of ganged up on him and gathered around him and said, Ben, you are the world's best. I think it was IM. For 15 years. Can you just, go play in a tournament just one time, finish it off, become a GM and join us, please? And Ben did, and he did. And Ben teaches very well too. I love watching Ben. I mean, the nighttime with Ben, you just sit there and Ben's like this and he's talking to you. And it's a lot of fun. And Levy is a terrific teacher. But if you like Levy, check out Eric Rosen, because Eric is really, 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 really great. And there's another guy who's very spiky. I can't remember his name, who, I can't remember his name, who is very good too, but very, you have to be synced in with his energy, because you're very stupid, you won't get it. And no one wants to be called stupid. So Levy is retiring from over-the-board chess. He's giving up his quest to be a grandmaster, which is a sigh of relief for everyone who knows him, because he has a new dog, he just got married, and he wants to have kids. So how is he going to be a GM? It's just not possible. And now I think Levy accepts that. He accepts his role. The children across the world adore Levy. And I would say, if you're a child and you adore Levy, do not watch him live, because you'll be very disappointed. And I saw him live. And parents were saying, Levy, can you stop using the F word and telling your chat people to go F themselves, because, my kids are watching you. They adore you. And Levy said, as a New Yorker would, F you, Mom, I do what I want to do. Levy on YouTube is where he belongs. Oh, we have so many more things to talk about, but now it's time for our blood pressure break. Returning in a moment. And we are back from break. I'm David Bowles, and this is Bowles.tv, BOLES.tv, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Oh, so many things to keep talking about today, and Gordon sent hashtag This Is America Now about selling NFTs. Now, NFTs, I thought that they were being destroyed by the mainline media. Oh, we can't have an NFT. Crypto is dying. Oh, this is from January. This is before the big crash. Our account had less than $1. This couple made nearly $120,000 in under 6 hours selling NFTs to save their home from foreclosure. Well, that's nothing, because if you know Xcopy, and we've talked about him here before, let me see if I can find Xcopy something. Oops. There, Xcopy. This is Xcopy on OpenSea. This is what he sells. And you can see what they're selling for, right? Xcopy sold something like 3,000 of this for 1 ETH when they were initially released like 6 months ago. And in 45 minutes, he had made, and I'm not exaggerating, this is the math, $34 million in 45 minutes. This. Talk about depressing. If he tried it again today, it'd be half of that. But as I said, this, and I talked about Xcopy in comparison with Sabet. Sabet releases 1,000 things in 10 days and wants $200 for each one, let's say. Oversaturates the market. So you buy something from Sabet this day and you're happy, and then the next day there's something that's even better from Sabet that you like, and you want to buy that too, but you already spent your $100. So Xcopy does it differently. Xcopy has very limited releases, maybe like 1 or 2 a year. He lets all of his fans know, I'm releasing on this date. If you own one of my pieces, you're on the white list to buy one at this price. People know what they want. They know the date they can get it. They're saving up their money. They're on the white list. They know they're going to be involved and can get one. And he sells out of everything he has in 45 minutes and earns $34 million. Woohoo! And speaking of chess, Hikaru, when he was in California, would go to Coffee Chess. And you should check out the Coffee Chess channel. They're very lovely. They play outside of a Starbucks somewhere in California. They don't want people to know exactly where they are because they don't want to get harassed, because some people are that way, you know what I mean? And Hikaru went and visited, played several times, and you get a whole different side of Hikaru. You don't see the performing Hikaru who is, silly and crazy, charming on his live stream. You see the real life Hikaru who's just sitting there playing chess, and he's very nice. He's very calm. Every once in a while, he'll say, don't make that move. Make this move. Especially, he plays kids a couple of times. He says, are you sure you want to do that? And then the kid takes it back. And then Hikaru says, what other piece might you move? It's really a very beautiful way of teaching. And Hikaru says one of the main problems that Levy has is that Levy isn't thinking on the level of a GM. And he thinks the problem is that he makes all of these introductory videos for YouTube that just concentrates on the first, 10, 15 moves of a game. And after that, Levy's game falls off and is destroyed. Gordon says, what would be clever is if there was a coffee shop with a daily chess puzzle, and everyone who correctly solves it is entered to win a gift card. I love that. I'll go. Strange things in my hair. That's that great. Just brush away the gray. So Hikaru has this whole theory on why Levy would never become a GM because he doesn't have the mentality. And I can kind of understand that. And Hikaru said that the really, really, really good chess players do not teach beginners. They teach people on their own level. And somebody asked him about Daniel Naroditsky because that's where he makes a lot of his money. And Danya is now the chess guy for New York Times. And Hikaru said that's different because Danya Naroditsky is very selective in who he takes on as a student, and he only takes on players with a rating over 2,000. So he's dealing with people who are on the same level, pretty much, that he is. So he's not like dumbing down his game in order to explain it to a lesser person. Whereas Hikaru says that's what Levy does all day, is dumb down chess to make it explainable to people who are just starting out, which I think is a very interesting philosophy and way of thinking. It sort of makes sense on one level. So we were trending for Magnus yesterday afternoon and all night. Here is the Reddit chess, where Hikaru says, I think if I had finished second in the candidates tournament, Magnus would have played the World Chess Championship. I don't think there's any world that Magnus could live where I would be World Chess Champion and he's not World Champion. Now that is just like, wow. That is an ego on display. And then Hikaru went on his show yesterday and said even more terrible things about Fabiano Caruana, who is also a United States chess player, saying, oh no, the person who's destroyed and heartbroken is not me, Hikaru. It's really Fabi. Because when he realized he wasn't going to be in first place, he gave up and just drew the rest of his games and gave up. If he had been second, he'd be playing against Jan for the championship. And Magnus wouldn't want to play Fabi because he's already beaten Fabi. But Magnus would play if I were in second place because he wants to not give me a chance to be the world champion. Very, very weird disconnect. So, as Hikaru says, the chess subreddit on Reddit hates him. And it does tend to be true. Rightly or wrongly, they really do go after him. Hikaru, I don't think Magnus thinks about Hikaru ever. Why would he care? Hikaru was never one of Magnus's big rivals. He was never a threat. And when exactly did Magnus refer to Hikaru the last time? This is a very one-sided relationship, and it's all on Hikaru's side. Now, yesterday we also talked about being on the spectrum and how there's no harm in being on the spectrum, right? Rosie O'Donnell said that. We wondered about Magnus Carlsen. Others. And we talked about how Rosie O'Donnell got in trouble about, saying I have autistic children and children are on the spectrum, and Barron Trump appears to have similar traits. And Rosie was saying that's not a negative thing, that's a wonderful thing. You can have a son of a president who is on the spectrum and is functional and well taken care of and doing well. And she got ripped apart. You're not a doctor. How can you judge him and analyze him? You have no credentials. And the far right, they hate Rosie O'Donnell anyway because she's a lesbian and a liberal and meow. And Rosie just said, well, when you're exposed to it, and then you see it in the wild, you just kind of say, oh, I recognize that. And it doesn't mean you are, or people in your family are, but people maybe you deal with every day in your life. You say, oh, okay, I know what that is. So this, I thought, was a very interesting picture posted this morning. that is directly related to the conversation we had yesterday. At Ivana Trump's funeral, a gold-hued coffin, and the Secret Service. Now, I'm not making any value judgments here. I'm not making any remote diagnoses, but I do want to take a closer look at this image from the New York Times. These are all the mourners at Ivana Trump's funeral. The Donald. People either seem to be looking this way or this way. Very few are looking front and center. And I'm going to argue there's only one person who is facing forward, who appears to be reading only internally. Trump looking this way. This one, sunglasses. I believe the only person with sunglasses in the entire picture, looking straight at the camera, of course, because she's a supermodel. Then we have Barron Trump. Whose expression is internal and unfocused. And maybe that's the way some people deal with the death of their grandmother. Here's a child who appears to be the child of Ivanka, looking this way, looking this way, looking this way. Hey, El Beyonce's here. Hey, El Beyonce too. El Beyonce too. Nice to see you. Donald Jr. is looking at the camera, but past the camera. This young person's looking this way. So there's one thing going on this way, one thing going on this way. It's a very weird picture. There's Jared right here, yeah. Don Jr.'s girlfriend looking this way. An old man looking that way. Same way, right? I don't know who this is, but looking this. So something's going on over here, and something's going on over here. So it seems like there are two main places where you would look. And the third is straight at the camera, which is sort of what Don is doing. And what is Melania is doing. And there in the middle of it all is Barron Trump, who seems observationally to be a little bit disconnected and not concentrating on the actual event, but maybe something that's stirring in his mind. I find it to be a very fascinating family photograph. And speaking of being on the spectrum, we've talked about Kylie before. Kylie Bitkin is her name. She streams Grand Theft Auto a lot on Twitch, and she has blue hair. And she says, I'm on the spectrum. And it's really interesting to listen to her stream because she's role-playing with other people, talking. And when she's done speaking, she obviously turns off her microphone when speaking to the other people, but we can hear her reaction. So she says, good morning. Oh, you're breaking the law. She always has this little laugh after everything she says. But when you're watching another player's stream interacting with Kylie, you never hear that laugh because she cuts it off. So you just hear her character. But when you're on her side listening to her stream, she says the line and then she does that laugh, which is very interesting. Okay. And she has blue hair and she's very proud of her blue hair. And she is on the spectrum. She also says she has an OnlyFans page that she seems to kind of promote on Twitter, which suggests to me usually it's showing your body. And she says that she's in the top percent of OnlyFans subscription getters, which means that all of her young fans, I guess, on Twitch are following over OnlyFans and paying her there. So she seems to believe that she is a witch. And every once in a while, she posts a provocative image on Twitter, I guess, to sell her OnlyFans page. And she is remarkably fit. And she's a wonderful streamer. She knows how to role play. She's the one I talked about maybe a couple of months ago, where she had this big dramatic thing and people were making fun of her in her stream the next day. Oh, you were crying. And she said, yeah, I was crying. I was into the role. And if I were on stage having a scene with somebody in real life and I was crying and you found it effective, you would applaud me at the end because what a great actress. But because I'm streaming, you think I'm weak and that I'm no good and that me crying is a sign of weakness. And that's not fair. Very good point. So this is Kylie in her swimsuit. I like the blue hair. She has the anagram thing here on her glasses because she's now playing a witch thing sort of on. Here's another one. Here we go. This top 0.36% on OnlyFans. I'm super happy and confident in myself after all the love you guys have shown me. I feel like I'm living in a dream. Sky's the limit. I won't post this stuff on my main Twitter account often, but I do like to show off. Kylie. You can imagine what she's doing to all those very young minds and eyes who are taking a look at her. Feeling cute, might delete later, which is kind of very charming, and she didn't delete it. And when she streams, this is sometimes what she wears while she's streaming, and it's hard not to want to watch. And she's a very talented streamer. She plays a cop sometimes. She plays the owner of a car fix-it shop sometimes. She is an oil baron. She says she's worth $30 million in that world. And I think it's true because she works very hard. She's on all the time. She's had some emotional problems. This is her real-life car. And she's trying to get medication changed. She hasn't been streaming a lot lately. She isn't feeling very good. And she loves cats. So what are you going to do? So I'm saying hello again to our friend Al Beyonce. Is Al Beyonce still here? How are you doing, friend? I finished my rant. If you have an update for us on how you're feeling, what you're doing, just shout out and speak up, because that's what we do here. And what's funny, Kylie Bitkin is a great name, right? And she has a character on Grand Theft Auto. That's Kylie Bitcoin, which I find hilarious. She doesn't play it very often, but I find it very funny. Hey, Mr. Gordon says, have I ever told you that my favorite car is the Volkswagen Armingia? Yes, and you've provided photographs. It's a beautiful, beautiful car. But they're not making it anymore, right? Oh, we're back to her media. I just want to go to her main page because it's funny how foul-mouthed she is as well. Tweets, that's what I want. She was very upset yesterday. And I'm not going to read it all because it's potty-mouthing. Hey, DF viewers. I didn't change the motor unit, and the SOP stuff wasn't even my idea. Stop crucifying me because you're mad over a video game. I'm just a messenger. Twisting narratives because you don't like me, it's just gross. Grow up. Oh, nobody has any idea what she's talking about. But people are saying, when you respond like that, you're just encouraging them. Oh, and Gordon also says that, and the Nissan Figaro, both amazing looking cars. The Figaro, of course, being intentionally made to look vintage, even though it was made in 1991. Very nice. I love the old cars. I love a Mustang, I admit. The 65 Mustang. Beautiful, beautiful cars. But I guess on Reddit that Mustangs, if you like Mustangs or you drive Mustangs, you're a big loser because there's a whole Reddit dedicated to people crashing their Mustangs. And they're always young, dumb kids. And they have no respect for the car. They don't know how to drive it. Which I don't understand. I had a Mustang. back in Nebraska. It was a 6-cylinder white hatchback, and it was fast. And the state patrol at that time had similar cars that were just as fast, and they were white, and the Mustang was white. And so you'd be out on the highway driving, and all the cars in front of you would slow down and get out of the way, and then you'd pass them. And I finally, after months, figured out what they were doing. They thought I was state patrol. So they were slowing down, going the speed limit, and letting me go around them. And I did. Oh, it was fabulous. That was a fast car. Oh. So now we'll finish off our conversation before we take our little break about Asperger's syndrome. Now, it's interesting. Actually, I'm going to talk about this when I get back because it's a little more complicated than what I am going to be able to share in 1 minute. So we will return momentarily with a little bit of discussion about what is spectrum and what is not spectrum. Returning in a moment. Hey, and we're back from break. I'm David Bowles, Bowles.tv, BOLES.tv, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Here chatting with our friend El Beyonce 2 and Commissioner Gordon from Florida. And Gordon asks, El Beyonce 2, it's Thursday. Do you know what it means? I know what it means, but I'm not telling. Hey, we talked about autism, Asperger's, being on the spectrum. And here we go with this final thought. What is Asperger's syndrome? Now, when I was growing up, there was no really autism. There was no Asperger's. Now, there were people who probably had both of those conditions. But back then, it was called being slow, low function, even retarded. All right? Now, we don't use retarded anymore. We don't use low function. We tend to use low information. We don't use hearing impaired. We now use hard of hearing. So things change. Now, some people say, oh, those are just labels. Those are woke people trying to be politically correct. And political correctness is not even a thing anymore, really, because what does it mean? You're either appropriate or you're not appropriate. It doesn't have anything to do with being political. Gordon says, incidentally, you're the only person I know that pronounces a jr and not grr. Is it intentional to not sound like you're saying Asperger? I get the joke. That's just the way I've always pronounced it. Maybe it's a Nebraska thing. But I don't think it's burger. I get the joke it's burger, but I think I've always heard it pronounced Asperger's when I'm talking to, I guess, people in the field. We could Google the pronunciation, but now we know that Google is not always going to get the pronunciation right. So what are you going to do? So generally, this is on a child's website, so you're looking for it in your kids. Generally, children and teens with Asperger's syndrome can speak with others and can perform fairly well in their schoolwork. However, they tend to have trouble understanding social situations and subtle forms of communication like body language, humor, and sarcasm. And sarcasm is very hard to get. And sometimes I can be, humorous and maybe sarcastic. And if I don't give the right cues with my face, because usually I'm very deadpan, many people, misunderstand and think that I'm being serious. So that doesn't mean they have Asperger's. That just means I'm not a very good comic, I guess. They might also think and talk a lot about one topic or interest, or only want to do a small range of activities. These interests can become obsessive and interfere with everyday life, rather than giving the child a healthy social or recreational outlet. Hey, Gordon says, the other day, the Google Hub in our bedroom heard something that triggered it to want to play soft rock. None of us said anything that was anything like, hey, play some soft rock. Ooh, that's very interesting. Something was heard somewhere. Boys are 3 to 4 times more likely than girls to have Asperger's syndrome. Most cases are diagnosed between the ages of 5 and 9, some as early as age 3. And some people don't get diagnosed until later in life, 50 or 60. What is the difference between Asperger's and autism? And the thing is, now the same thing. They don't separate them anymore. They now say that autism is a wide spectrum, and Asperger's is now part of that spectrum. Very interesting. What are the signs and symptoms? Inappropriate social interactions, conversations that revolve only around the person speaking, not understanding emotions well, less facial expression, speech that sounds unusual, high, flat, quiet, loud, or robotic, becoming upset at small changes in situations, memorizing preferred information and facts very easily, clumsy, uncoordinated movements, including difficulty with handwriting. It's very interesting. I don't even know if they teach handwriting anymore. When I was young, you had to learn how to print and do cursive. And the thing I'm getting now is they're not really teaching kids cursive handwriting anymore, which I don't understand, because even if you're just typing on a typewriter all day, there are things in history that have been written with a cursive hand that you might want to be able to read and interpret. Difficulty managing emotions, sometimes leading to verbal or behavioral outbursts, self-injurious behaviors or tantrums, not understanding other people's feelings or perspectives, hypersensitivity to light, sounds, and textures. Now, some of these things you say, oh, well, I have a little bit of that. Sometimes I'm socially awkward. Used to be painfully shy. Now it's, social anxiety, whatever. Gordon says, my handwriting is a chicken scratch unless I write painfully slowly. Well, you should have been a doctor. And that I do find very disturbing, because doctors, the big joke is they have terrible handwriting. Now, who would want someone caring for them writing something that's undecipherable, and you give it to a pharmacist who then has to try to decipher what a doctor has written? It's outrageous. That's why I like these electronic prescriptions, because the communication is very clear. The doctor is clicking on a medication. That medication is being sent to a pharmacist. There's no interpretation necessary. My grandfather was a pharmacist, and he got to know all these doctors and their terrible, terrible, terrible handwriting. But whose fault is it if the prescription is filled wrong because you couldn't understand the physician's handwriting? You might think you do, and then in the end it turns out it was wrong. It's a weird thing. So diagnosis, treatment. So it's interesting that, people say, oh, you're quiet, or oh, you're sensitive to loud sounds. You must have Asperger's. And to those people, I don't know why they have to make that accusation. Oh, Gordon says, my grandmother was a pharmacist. Did your grandfather use a mortar and pestle as my grandmother did? Oh, yes. He was very, very old school, old style. 1930s, 1940s. In a very small town in Nebraska, North Loop, Nebraska. And he was sort of the bank. He was sort of the local therapist. And during the Great Depression, people did not have money for their medication. So they would come to him. Bill Vodnall was his name. William Henry Vodnall. And they come, and everybody in town called him Uncle Bill. They said, Uncle Bill, I don't have any money for my medication. I don't know what to do. And then they'd say, but I have 3 eggs. We'd say, that's enough. Sometimes they'd say, I don't have any eggs left, but I have a chicken. I'll take the chicken. And when you do that for people and you help them through a hard time, they tend to be super loyal and care for you and protect you. And he was like the only pharmacist around. The other nearest pharmacist was like 11 miles away, which doesn't sound very far, but in that time where you didn't really have a car and you were working on your farm, 11 miles is a long way to go there and back to just get a prescription filled. So there are people who would take, little bits of these. Oh, you must have Asperger's. Oh, you're making faces. Or there are people who to try to define you and try to put a label on you and make you fit. And, oh, you should get tested. Well, let's just don't. Well, maybe you need medication. No. Maybe if I had kids, I'd be concerned about it. them, me, but if it's just me, what difference does it make? And I don't fit the criteria, but there are people around you who try to define you. And so when they try to do that to me, oh, you're strange, you're odd, must be something wrong with you. I say to them, well, why don't we just pretend that I have whatever you're trying to give me? So, treat me that way. Disabled. I have a syndrome. Well, we don't know that for sure. We have to find out for sure so we can get you on medication. What? I feel fine. I'm functional. Everything's going great. I understand your concern, trying to box me, label me, especially when you're younger in school. And then when we're done with me, let's do you, because, I think that you're, what? There's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. Oh, really? Well, just pretend that I have whatever you think I have and treat me accordingly. Don't treat me like you're treating me now, which is viciously and cruelly. Teach me as a person with an affliction. And they won't, because they don't want to. The pharmacist in the family is a very interesting thing. You need help, you need advice on a medication. They know what to do. They know where to get it and have it delivered. You're not feeling well in the middle of the night, you give Grandpa a call and say, what do I do? What do I take? And Grandpa always has the answer. And this has been a very interesting show today. I thank you so much for being here. Went off on a couple of interesting tangents, which I always appreciate. Didn't quite get to everything we wanted to get to, but we will get to that tomorrow. And I just can't get over that family picture at Ivana's funeral and observing where people are looking and what you think they're thinking about. Hey, Gordon says, and sometimes they notice when the doctor prescribes things that shouldn't go together. Right. As my grandmother didn't save lives in the actual literal sense. Yeah, and that was the backstop between the patient and the doctor, was the pharmacist. And often they would have to call the doctor and say, did you mean this? Is that really what you want? And today, there's some of that going on, but a lot of it's all electronic. The computer says that medicine does not go with this medicine. Well, it was a lot different back then. You had to know what you were doing. And you had to go away for a while, and then you had to come back and set up shop and hope people would come and see you. And getting drug deliveries in a very small town of a village of 400 people was something that was very, very interesting. So if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, you can find me in email, david@bowles.tv. On Twitter, you can follow at David Bowles and be a super follower. On Facebook, we're BOLES. On Instagram, Bowles Books. On the Tickety-Tockety, Bowles TV. And if you're interested in joining our Discord server, you can and you shall. Hey, it's now BowlesBot. So it took a while for it to catch on. I guess Streamlabs is having some kind of weird trouble today. But now it seems like it's working. We made it through the show. Everything is fine. Everything is good with the world. So I hope you have a wonderful nap, a good sleep, a wonderful dream, and a tremendous slumber. And when ye shall awaken, may your soul be filled with joy and anticipation of what is to come. I'll see you tomorrow.